Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal, and the Diablo crossover event for World of Warcraft is finally here with the Greedy Emissary event, which allows Diablo goblins to start spawning within Azeroth filled with loot, offering players a bunch of new cosmetics for the War Within revamp with a new currency that allows you to directly unlock armor sets instead of having a chance to RNG get them. However, slaying each goblin does give you a chance for even more rewards, some new ones that got brought in for the War Within, but also all of the old returning rewards as well. This is a limited time event that will be available during this month of July. So because of that, I did want to make a video going over the most efficient ways to farm this event, especially if you're just trying to blow through the content as quickly as possible. This is one of those few events that doesn't have any time gating, so if you want to blaze through the content and get all the rewards within a handful of hours in one sitting, you actually could do that. I was able to do a little bit of farming myself, and I discovered some efficient methods, and I want to share those methods with you guys, especially if you're just trying to get through the Greedy Emissary event as quickly as possible. So with that, if you guys want to see more guides like these for future War Within content, be sure to follow the channel and subscribe, but otherwise, let's dive right in. So I had a lot of you guys actually reach out to me asking me, how do you get all of the different goblin shards? How am I getting more shards than most players? Because a lot of you are getting one at a time, but apparently I'm getting a ton of them. And I wanted to kind of share a bunch of knowledge as to what this event is and how to maximize all of the rewards as best as possible. First thing first, however, what is the Greedy Emissary? It is an event that's like a Diablo crossover event. We've had it a couple of times before, but the goblins from Diablo have made a return, invading Azeroth all over again, spawning in a number of locations with new cosmetic rewards for you to collect. This time, however, instead of us slaying the goblins, we'll be turning ourselves slowly into loot goblins ourselves as we collect all of the items and unique things that they can drop from their inventory. Plus, this time around for War Within, there's a new currency that allows you to buy some awesome new armor sets. Well, new I guess is a word for this. Technically, these are just recolors of the Anniversary revamped sets, the nice high quality ones, but still it's really cool to see that they're adding like variations for these sets if, let's say, you miss the Anniversary versions. So the first thing is, I guess we can go over the rewards as to why even you should be logging in for this event to begin with. So in Dalaran, there's going to be now a brand new vendor, a Hell Hunter, and actually a bunch of these different Hell Hunters. One of them looking like a Culturan Paladin. I wonder if that means that Culturans potentially becoming Paladins in the future. But these guys actually even have like a bit of lore. When you talk to them what world they come from and what the Hell Hunters are, they actually come from an alternate reality of Azeroth that had been invaded by demons, but actually has been brought in by Fandral Staghelm through Hellfire. So it's kind of cool that there's like lore with these guys for a bit. But the main purpose of them is to be vendors for some brand new armor sets. Or again, recolors of armor sets, as we talked about. The Anniversary sets, but in a Hellfire mode. Most of them being red or fiery alternatives. The Death Knight in particular looks amazing. The Demon Hunter I'm also a big fan of, as it's like, you know, get that a bit of that red. So a little bit less of green fell energy, but more like of this red demonic kind of Hellfire look to it. There's also the Druid of the Flame type of set, which comes in two variations. There's a robe and the pants version. Then there's the Evoker set, also robe and pants version, that has the Lifebinder armor look to it. We got the Hunter set, which is just a recolor of the original. We got the red version of the arcane looking regalia for the mages. A absolutely diabolical looking set for monks, which looks absolutely amazing in my opinion. This one just looks sinister. The paladin, which is like this fell paladin corrupted variation. We got the priest, which looks like a fiery priest rather than the Naru look. The Rogue's got a really good set. The Shadow Slayer's armor set looks absolutely amazing. The color scheme and everything about it just looks absolutely gorgeous. This has been a fan favorite for so many on the vendor. Outside of this, we also have the Shaman, which has the red variation of their Lightning Wolf set. We have the Warlocks with the Hellfire Remnant, also robe version and the pants version. Same thing goes for the Shaman. There's a robe and the pants version. And then there's the Warriors set, which looks absolutely amazing in my opinion. A big fan of the set. And it looks like there's going to be in the future a third set of these Anniversary sets, like a third recolor of them at some point in the future, most likely, at least what we can data mine from, you know, what we have available on the BTR so far. But every single one of these sets is going to cost you 40 Hellstone shards, and I'm actually about to complete the entire rest of my collection as the event itself is really not that difficult to farm for, but if you're just looking to get a bunch of these hits, you can actually just do them in a single sitting. It'll be a bit of a long sitting as it takes you a while to get those Hellstone shards necessary for this, but it's really not that grindy, and really it's not that time gated. Outside of these sets, however, we also have the Inaria's Charger mount, which is the Tyrael Charger, but a recolor of it. This thing looks amazing. It doesn't have the highest drop rate, but also it doesn't have the lowest one either. There have been some players that maybe slayed like 10 to 20 goblins and they've gotten it. Other players have had to slay over 100 goblins before they've gotten it, which sounds like a lot, but you can actually slay a ton of goblins throughout the entire month. So while it may take you some time, this one is at least a fairly high drop rate. Outside of this, we also have a brand new back piece of the Blood Wrapped Treasure Bag, which is a recolor of the Goblin back piece that we got from a couple of the other Diablo events a few years ago. As well as you can collect temporary buffs to store in your bags, which do have a limited duration, but these are the buffs that you can get from slaying goblins, and it'll just grant you bonuses for open world content, as well as content that is outside of raids, Mythic Plus, and rated PvP. So it's just a really fun way for you to be able to get little buffs for your character. It's just a unique little thing that they have for this event that can make certain like casual content, but also open world content just a little bit more approachable, which is pretty nice. Outside of this though, there's also a number of returning rewards that players can collect again if you missed out on them previously. One of them being a Balial pet, or Balial pet, the goat that's very Diablo shaped or centric, especially with the sigils on the side. Similar to Inaria's Charger, apparently you can also get the Tyrael's Charger during this event, though the drop rate for this one seems to be very low, so it's a very super rare drop. You can also get a bunch of variations of Wyrt's fighting leg as either one-handed mace, two-handed mace, or an offhand, which is supposed to be a Diablo reference, so I don't really know who Wyrt is, to be honest. There's also the Treasure Goblin backpack, or rather the Treasure Nabbin bag, so if you haven't gotten this one from previous events, you'll have another opportunity to get this as well. There is the Enmity Cloak, which looks absolutely diabolical, plus a hood to go with it as well. As well as a number of little items such as a livestock polearm, as well as a couple of toys, one of them being a teleport scroll that looks like the Diablo homebound or home portal scroll. Then there's also the 12-string guitar that will actually play Diablo-esque music while you're inside of a rest area or inside of an inn, which is really cool. And all of these things are a returning set of rewards, plus some of the new ones that you will be able to collect for this event, and majority of these you can obtain every time you slay a goblin. Whether you're in open world or in instance content, anytime you slay a goblin, there's a chance that one of these items, new and old, can potentially drop. So a huge portion of this event is just slaying as many goblins as possible until you get all of the unique rewards. However, War Within brought in new mechanics to the Goblin event, as goblins can also now drop chests with Hellfire Shards, which are the currency that is used in order to buy the new armor sets. Outside of this, you can also get another assortment of Valor Stones. A lot of players have been getting a bunch of them recently, so if you're behind, that's another opportunity for Valor. Apparently, you can also get a bunch of trash items that you can vendor, and you can also get elixirs to buff up the goblins. When a goblin portal opens up, it tells you that a goblin is about to pop out of the portal, and during that time you could throw an elixir into the portal to buff up the goblins with various affixes. Now, these affixes give goblins a bunch of Diablo-style mechanics and effects. Most of them are going to be something that will hurt you and make the goblins slightly more challenging to fight, or in some cases just a little bit more annoying, more than anything. However, the more affixes you load up into a portal, the more goblins can spawn out of a single portal, which is massive. So if you're applying like no affixes or like 1 or 2, you'll spawn 1 goblin. But if you're applying 3 to 4 affixes, you're spawning 2 goblins, or 5 and 6 allows you to spawn 3 goblins. So the best way to go about this event, if you're trying to get the most amount of rewards, is to spawn as many goblins as possible per portal. And you want to load up these goblin portals with a bunch of affixes so you can get more chances at rewards, which becomes a little bit easier to do in a bigger group. Now I also want to talk about some of the best ways to just farm out as many of these goblins so you can get all of the rewards. The first thing, goblins for the week for your entire warband will drop a bunch of Hellcaller shards guaranteed from their Hellcaller chests. But after the first 10 goblins per weekly reset, anything else is just going to give you a lower chance to drop maybe a few Hellcaller shards or other trash items potentially. And if you are going to be dropping any shards, you will drop them in a smaller amount. So the first few goblins per weekly reset are going to be lucrative, but everything afterwards is a bit of a farm, though still a decent enough farm either way. Primarily, if you're looking for a more casual experience for goblin farming, they will spawn in 3 specific locations: one in Stormwind by the docks, one outside of the gates of Orgrimmar, and one outside of Dornogal where the training dummy area is, like kind of down the main plaza area, kind of all the way almost to the main plaza where the side quests are. Somewhere in the middle you'll see a goblin portal spawning out in the open. So these will spawn roughly every 30 minutes, starting on at the start of a brand new hour, and then 30 minutes at like the halfway mark of a brand new hour. These portals usually have about 5 minutes worth of wait time, so you have ample time in order to get there quick enough to load up those portals full of the affixes in order to spawn more goblins. And this ends up being a pretty good strategy for players that just want to AFK farm, or maybe get something to do in between of your dungeon runs and raid runs, especially if you're farming transmogs and mounts. Another way to spawn goblins actually is from the Liberation of Undermined raid, as defeating bosses within the raid has a chance to spawn a goblin portal, which functions exactly the same as portals in the open world. They can be loaded up with affixes, they'll spawn multiple goblins, and can give you a bunch of items for you to collect. This is awesome for anybody that is still looking to catch up, maybe new characters, or just trying to get the weekly raiding out of the way while the Season 2 content is still here. Maybe you're looking to gear up before Season 3. So there's more than one reason for you to dive back into raids while you gear in a character, so you'll be able to get a couple of these cool rewards while you're working on other projects at the same time. However, ultimately, the best place to farm goblins endlessly is within the zone of Undermine. Roaming around that entire zone, especially in a massive raid, is probably the best way to farm these goblins, especially if the community within the zone has a bit of coordination, so you're not wasting any goblin spawns whatsoever. As rares within Undermine will spawn goblin portals. The rares, however, after they spawn a goblin portal, will go on a bit of a cooldown before they can spawn one again. But if everybody in the whole zone is coordinating together and you're slaying one rare at a time, then you should be able to rotate through the rares pretty regularly with very little to no downtime, constantly spawning goblins, maximizing the amount of goblins spawned per portal to maximize all the rewards so you can farm this place endlessly. Also, every 15 minutes within the Undermine zone, there's a portal storm where a bunch of portals will start to spawn in at once. So you want to attack as many goblins as you can during that event and just try to get as many goblins under your belt in order to collect even more rewards than ever before. It's also a good idea for players to get into different cartels in order to spawn even more rares and events out in the open world so you can spawn in more goblins. As every single one of the goblin cartels, like the 4 primary ones, have special activities that spawns in a rare, and those rares will be able to spawn in another goblin portal. So the more players are part of different cartels, the more events you can basically guarantee that will be on the map. This also includes the Darkfuse reputation. Like if you got the solution for Darkfuse, you can spawn in the precipitant rare. That one also counts towards the goblin spawning mechanic, so you can add actually quite a few of these events that will rotate fairly regularly throughout the zone of Undermine, so you can continuously spawn these goblins. And that would be essentially the best way to absolutely farm everything out of this event. If you're just trying to, spend a couple of hours endlessly working on the rewards, getting as many health shards as possible, the Undermine running around spawning goblins endlessly is 1, pretty easy, 2, pretty mindless, and 3, just gives you so many rewards and so many opportunities for rewards. So if you're just trying to get through the event as quickly as possible, like if you're not a big fan of time gating yourself or having the content be time gated, you can just farm up these goblins within the first week, get all the rewards out of them immediately, and then never touch the activity again. There's quite a lot of players in WoW that hate time gating, and this is one of those activities that isn't time gated. So if you just want to maximize it, really just blow through the content very quickly, Undermine seems to be the place to go to. But with that being said, as always, I do want to thank all of you guys so much for watching this video, and I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did enjoy this video or found it informative, go ahead and give it a like. It would very much appreciate it. Also, join our Discord community, especially if you want to keep up with future updates like patch 11.2, currently in development over in the PTR, with a ton of new class changes on the horizon. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and as always, I'll see all of you guys in the next one.